Hello, everybody. This was an unexpected one because I screwed up the scheduling and I didn't know what the hell Shawn was talking about. So, welcome to the Six Figure Entertainer Podcast. I'm here with Shawn Kostiuk, and we are going to talk about his speech at the Performing Hypnosis Summit, and we're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff because he's the captain over there. He's the wrong cap. Well, 1 second, Jean-Luc or Kirk?
No, I've got the uniform for the next generation.
So he's the right captain. That other one's a douchebag. Sorry, Shawn. This is going to be fantastic. You're a fellow Saskatchewanian. I'm going to try not to swear to prevent you from having harassment issues with your real job. And
there is that too, and for those of you that are from outside of the province, we apologize in advance for our outrageous accent. We are unique.
Eccentric.
Oh, okay, I'm going to credit you once, and then it's mine.
It's all good. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've got the legend himself back there, and
Peter Ravine.
Yes. Now, did you know that most of the shows I go to, he's actually the last hypnotist that's performed in those communities?
Not a surprise.
Other than me.
Peter was a wizard at marketing. I can still remember the commercials because I used to live in North Battleford, so we would get our main CTV station was out of Saskatoon, so CFPC TV. Don't remember Greg Barnsley doing the weather, but I definitely remember Peter Ravine. Whenever his show was coming on, it was the man they call Ravine. He was an absolute expert at marketing. But here's a fun fact about Peter that most people don't know. Do you know where he got his suits from?
Now that you said it, probably Yorkton, but where did he get his suits from?
A little shop called Mr. Atch in Saskatoon.
Really?
Whenever he was rolling through, he would phone ahead to Don and say, Don, I need 4 suits or whatever it is. And he'd run in, make sure the sizes and everything fit and make the purchase and run out. So a lot of what he used to wear was actually coming right out of Saskatoon.
I had no idea. I always followed his marketing and just some of the stuff that he said, because you have to look at what he did, right? He would go to a town, he'd work with the Kinsmen or the Lions or whatever, and then a month and a half later he'd come back and he'd do a 4-wall show and he'd sell that second show as well and profit even more because the first one was so great. And he would do that constantly. There's a reason that he is, with our generation is probably the last one that's going to recognize him as being the top hypnotist in Canada. I'm 40, by the way. Look like 60, but 40. And it's really weird that our industry hasn't produced that level of a star within a country since that time. And that's almost anywhere. Matt Hale would be the closest these days, in my opinion. Let's talk about your talk. Your talk's going to be called Producing Jim. Yep. That's what you told me earlier. / producing Shawn, and you're going to be talking about mentorship.
Yeah.
Now, there is not a lack of mentors in our industry. There's a lack of mentors, in my opinion, for the type of shows that I do, and the type of shows that you do. To be honest, because we live in the middle of nowhere. We really do. It's like Wyoming, but less people even than that. As far as our space,
close to you to Regina, we might be both about the same distance from nowhere.
Well, 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of the things Kevin Lapine says during his talks is that you need to find the mentor that you want to be. I'll never be a Kevin. I'll never be a Richard Barker. I'll never be a Terry Stokes. That's not my goal. So, how do you tackle that with this talk? That mentorship is important, because that's what the talk is really about.
Yeah, it is. Ultimately, what I found with Jim was a friend, was a guy who was very much like myself. He was the guy who was more interested in me succeeding almost than I was. As a result, despite as nice as Jim can be behind the scenes, he's kicked my butt a few times on a few different things. And that's what you need in a mentor. And you're right, that fit has to be there. If you're going to be mentored by, Terry Stokes, and I've met Terry a few times, and particularly last year at PHS, we were able to don our uniforms at the same time. There's a few pictures of that floating around. Terry's a different style of hypnotist, and some of the groups that I belong to, and some of the mastermind groups that I meet with, there's all different styles. So, for example, I meet with the Hypno Hustle group. That's Scott King's group. Yep. But Colin Chapman who was just a guest on your last, is a big member of that. So I get to learn from Scott. I get to learn from Colin, Lisa, and sometimes Alan will pop in. But Misty and the Sandman, professionally, they're part of that group. So I get to see, and I get to, glean knowledge and figure things out. And the very first thing Lisa will tell anybody: record your shows. Record your shows. And it's almost, she's almost like a broken record for those of us that still remember what records are. Record your shows. And Colin has really started, watching him over the last got to be 5 years now, since that group started meeting. Watching Colin grow and change and adapt and really work at everything that he wants to be. You see that, you get to see that evolution over time, and no doubt he'll be the most canceled hypnotist ever.
He probably already is.
There's no question.
Yeah,
Colin wouldn't have it any other way.
The thing about the cancel, I love Colin. Colin challenged me every single time because we think so diametrically opposed.
And Colin will forgive me for this, I'm sure, or he'll probably try and stuff pineapple pizza down my throat. But Colin is a pain in the ass. And he's a good pain in the ass, because he's the guy who's going to come in and say, what the hell? What were you thinking? Why did you do that? How could you do it better? And I've seen him, in the Hypno Hustle with other up and coming hypnotists do exactly that. And it feels like you're on the hot seat quite a bit around him, but you need that, and that's a big part of what mentorship is. And so the talk Producing Jim actually came about. I'll plug Jim's book. I probably need to flip my camera around and make it less mirrored, but there is a little piece in here, and it was an off joke early last year when Jim said, "Oh, you need to write a talk," and I offhandedly said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do Producing Jim," and that's that was the joke. And so the dedication in here, my friend Shawn, Kostiuk, the captain. Thanks for being a great friend and for producing Jim, in quotes. I couldn't do it without you. And the show Hypnosis Hero took off, in that second year. I know Jim and Brian really worked at it in the first year on their own, but when I came in and was able to kind of alleviate the technical issues and let them actually do what they're really good at, which is talking to people, and then adding the occasional color commentary and defending Canada. The show kind of took a different dynamic, and it took off. And Jim was so pleased that we were actually booked out into almost June, having to have the Hypnosis Hero come back weekly. So it will continue in some form. Brian and I are working on it, but we've got a few logistics that we have to deal with. But Producing Jim, in my mind at that time, when I made the joke, was yeah, it's to keep you guys in line and actually on target with your show, because you guys, if I let you to, for example, one of the very first ones that I did would have been with Wendy Freeze, and we went 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And it was a great show, and it was really, really, there was lots of people on, and everything was really great. But 3.5 hours for a podcast, that's now a feature film.
It's 2 feature films.
Well, or it's a Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
It's an epic, and so we needed to make sure we pared it down. So drafting up what the show could look like, and kind of time frames to adhere to, and whatnot. And as we got closer to that, of course, we got a lot more people in. And I know you were a guest.
A while back.
Yeah, it'd be last year, I think.
Yeah.
Season 2. So yeah, season 3 unfortunately has been interrupted, but it will return. So, but yeah, back to mentorship. Jim was the guy who had that idea. Jim was the guy who wanted to make it happen. He knew which people he could connect with to make it happen. And that type of mentorship, when you're starting out, and that ability to say, "Hey, Jim, what about this?" Or, I didn't do that with the certification, board that certified me.
Yeah.
So, you're not asking them those questions. The day-to-day in the trenches, how are you doing? The guy who will pick you up and dust you off and kick you in the butt to get going again. That's the role of the mentor.
It is. We've got Richard Cole as the keynote. And Richard is one of my best friends in this industry. I've been talking to him.
I know, he never stops talking about you.
Oh, really? Sorry. But we've somewhat mentored each other back and forth. When he needs a kick in the ass, I give him a kick in the ass. And when I need a kick in the ass, and it's a symbiotic relationship, not necessarily a mentor-mentee. But when he got booked as the keynote, he asked me specifically, "Jesse, why would they do this? I mean, I'm a nobody." And here's the truth. He's been doing it for 30 years. And he still feels like a nobody. I feel like a nobody too. And I said straight out, "Richard, it's because you're relatable. That's the only real reason. You are relatable. You're not some flipping guru on a hill. People can actually talk to you. And that's why you're the perfect keynote for this." And that bugger, he has refused to tell me anything about his keynote. So,
well, I know very, very little about what he's going to say, except that we've had discussions, because of course he's also on the Performing Hypnosis steering committee, and we've had discussions about what do we do in this circumstance, and is there still going to be a keynote, all that. So yes, I will confirm for 100% that there will be a keynote, and it will be. I was going to say Old King Cole, but
so there's something I need to address there.
Yep.
Richard Cole's the keynote. My mentor always said that hypnotists are what's known as a no-name headliner, which means that we can headline a show, but nobody knows who the hypnotist actually is.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Experience, is that what's happened as well?
Yep. I would, again, Ravine was a little different because he had that marketing and he had a jingle. And when you're marketing, it can take that kind of format that a jingle gets into people's heads over time, you will be remembered, right? So yeah, I look at a guy like somebody like Wayne Lee, who,
there you go.
One of the very first guys that I reached out to. I made 2 calls when I first became a hypnotist and started looking around to see who was doing what. The first call was to Wayne Lee, and we kind of hit it off a little bit because he was also a former teacher. He decided to go the route of hypnosis and entertainment. He said, "Shawn, you need to have a product," and that was kind of the kick in the butt. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell am I going to develop a product? And then my next call was actually to Anthony Gailey, who very much said the same thing, and then gave me access to his entire library and said, here, here's 25,000 resources that will help you do just that. Oh my God. And, and that's when I kind of started to realize, hey, there's a little bit of a camaraderie here, and that's good. So, and if you ask Wayne and you ask Anthony now, like this was more than 10 years ago, they probably, neither one of them will recall the conversation. But in my mind, that's the conversation. You need to have a product before you go out and start entertaining in the corporate community.
Yeah.
Or doing what Wayne does, which is a lot more corporate speaking and following it up with the entertainment. Yeah. And for Wayne, the way that he's positioned himself, it's really an event. Like there's a professional development component, and you may see him like he did the fair in Regina this summer.
Yeah.
But by and large, he's probably more well known on the corporate circuit than any other hypnotist in Canada right now.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I will guarantee you, between him and Mike, that's the only two that are really anywhere in that realm. And Mike is, sorry, Mike, if you're watching, but you're probably not as high up as Wayne Lee is as far as what he's doing. You might be making more doing other things, but Wayne is probably top of the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about Jim's book because you brought it up.
Yep.
Is his wife able to access those accounts these days? Because if she is, I'm going to tell you right now that money will go to her, will it not?
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
I know they're still working on
Okay.
that. There's some legal finagling that needs to happen.
Amazon.
Well, not just Amazon, all the accounts, the business accounts and everything like that. All of that will, likely revert to his wife and family. And yeah, the best way that you can help Jim, I know there's a GoFundMe that has been started. That will go directly to them. But yeah, one of the things that Jim always loved about his book, and he would say, your life sucks, here's how to fix it, or your life sucks, here's how to fix it. And, the notion that it's more than just a raw self-help book. It is, okay, there's a problem. Now here is how you actually fix it. And oftentimes when people are looking at self-help books, they want the feel good, pat on the back that you're okay, and that's not Jim. Jim was never one to pull punches like that. You got a problem, let's fix it. And that was part of Jim's charm, and he always did it in a rather classy way or a funny way. Yeah. But the point was made. Yeah, okay, you need to fix that, and here's the steps you can do that with.
And the thing, I've read a bit of the book, and it's not necessarily about sit on your laurels. It's actually take action to fix something, because without action, you're going to be in the same damn spot.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Speaking about taking action, why stage hypnosis, Shawn? Why do you actually do this?
Why? Well, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory, because there aren't that many people that know kind of where I came from. So I had a really strong interest in hypnosis when I was in university back in Saskatoon. So
in the 40s, right?
In the last millennium.
Okay.
I say that, and students look at me now. I said, yeah, when I started, it was the last millennium. And they
It takes a second to figure out, right?
It takes a second. Oh, in the 1900s. Yeah. I'm older than old, according to TikTok. So
apparently,
anyway, the evolution was kid growing up in Battleford, and the area. I was actually outside of Battleford in West Park, which is it was a nice little kind of subsection of Battleford, but it was up on the other side of the river, right? So
okay,
you had about a 15-minute ride. Well, for me, it was exactly 15 minutes to get to McDonald's, which is where I spent a good chunk of my youth.
Did you see Dan's message here?
Yeah, TikTok. Blah. Yeah, well, TikTok is TikTok, and it'll be around for at least another week for you, Dan.
Dan, talk to me at the Performing Hypnosis Summit, because I think that part of the reason we're not getting the reach as hypnotists should is because we don't have a hook. We're just putting our video up. There's no actual hook in our videos. Why the hell are people watching people doing stupid shit when there's no hook? Something to think about. Anyway, Shawn, sidetrack there. Let's talk about your history, Battleford.
Yeah. So anyway, started taking an interest in it, and there wasn't a ton of information around. The public library, school library had very, very little. But when I hit university, I spent a good chunk of my time in the psychology section, which probably was to the detriment of everything else that I was doing. Put on a couple of mini performances for friends, and got used to at least doing a reasonably decent induction and exduction, and from there it just kind of, it was either that or education, and education paid more steadily, so that was the quote unquote safer bet. And we were just talking about Wayne. 30 years later, had a different opportunity presented itself, I probably would be right alongside Wayne doing exactly what he's doing. I shelved it for a long time, actually, and then in 2012, the world was coming to an end according to the Mayan calendar, and a whole bunch of other things were going on. Everybody around me was starting to, you could just kind of feel the stress level starting to go, and it wasn't coming back down. I thought, well, wait a minute, I know how to fix this, and so decided I would get certified, and got certified, and then from there decided, you know what, Yorkton itself is not likely large enough to support a practice. Now there's 3 of us here, so and I don't even call them competition, because the things that they do and the things that I do are slightly different.
Yep.
But the evolution was, I started immediately online, so I would still meet people over FaceTime or Skype, because Zoom was still a dream for a couple of years. And then when Zoom came into effect, and Teams and whatnot, and then the pandemic hit, well, I had already been online completely before that. So I had lots of clients from around the world, England, US, Canada, et cetera. And after the pandemic kind of settled down a little bit, and divorce was kind of finalized, it made more sense to me to start looking at
your divorce, Shawn. I've been there.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of us that have. It's unfortunate, but life goes on. And the I don't even say the allure of online. The notion that you could get out there and get the message out through the entertainment was the allure. Because I spent 30 years helping people, whether it was as a teacher, an IT manager, currently a digital learning consultant in good spirit, and the ability to help more people, and do it in a funny way. Well, I mean,
of course,
what's the drawback in that, right?
There isn't one, and I want to talk to you about that, because I've never done therapy. That's a lie. I've done probably 40 sessions over the years, and I don't like people enough to help them. That sounds really weird.
No, not necessarily. I get where you're coming from.
I take too much on from them, if that makes any sense. So I don't. When you use entertainment to do that, what are you doing to bring that while you're doing your show to the people?
Well,
and because I have a product specifically for that, but I want to know your way that you do it.
For me, I will look at weaving a message into the show. and typically, like where I end off with as a teacher, my absolute worst class ever was a grade 3 class in North Battleford. I won't name the school, cannot. Uh, as a substitute
You
teacher,
just cannot name the school.
just no, cannot. And I have friends that teach there, so if they are watching this, I apologize. It was a long time ago when we were all much younger. But this grade 3 class was absolutely off the wall. Like even the regular teacher would admit that this class was just off the wall. And it was just the makeup of the kids. And every so often you do get a bunch that are very much like that.
Yes.
So my skit that I usually end with is taking people back to being that grade 3 class. And I did it once in a mini show and forgot to mention again, no violence to the hypnotist or to each other. And as I turned, because it's the way I set it up is it's picture day, and you guys are like the worst grade 3 class ever, and you're antsy, you're making faces, blah blah blah. You might even say a bad word, but the teacher's going to have trouble taking the photo. Meanwhile, I've got my phone up and I'm filming the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I could see this pencil just come right past my ear. And I'm thinking to myself, if her aim was any better, I'd probably have a hole in my head right now. So, because it was whistling pretty good. And so, it's that kind of stuff. And then you can take that and turn that into something that's a positive and say, look, like they know they're not in grade 3. What happened here? And talk about the power that they have in their mind to actually make those changes. And it's not as hard as people make it out to be.
Not at all. Yeah. It's mainly about taking action. The truth about change work is it's take action and something will change. If you sit on your ass, nothing is going to change. So what else do we have to talk about, Shawn? Performing hypnosis. This has been a great talk, by the way. I've enjoyed just sitting here and having a conversation with a fellow person in our industry because we don't get to do that.
Well, and this is the joke that you and I have right now is we live probably 5.5 hours away from each other.
Yeah, 5. Yep.
And we've never met.
No.
In person.
It's weird.
And last year was the first year I met Corey, and his brother actually performed down here. And so James.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I met James, and then Corey was at Performing Hypnosis last year. Yeah. And this year you're showing up, so this will be our first actual ability to at least shake hands and say, hey, you've performed in a school, one of my schools. And everybody, it's kind of funny because everybody says, well, why don't they hire you? I said, because, honestly, that would be a little bit of a conflict of interest. Am I the entertainer? Is it, I said, you gotta take a look at this from a little bit of a legal perspective.
It's not only that, when you were talking about hypnotizing your friends and family, that's something I never did because I was always taught they won't view you as the hypnotist. So if you're going to a school where you're there every third week coming in as a consultant or whatever, they're not going to view you as the hypnotist and you're going to perform a subpar show. And it's not your fault. It's because of the relationships you built with people. It's a weird thing. My mentor always said that you're never famous at home. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you have to build outwards. And so for, honestly, the rivalry between Yorkton and Melville has always been around hockey and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And although that settled down, my first show in this area is going to be in Melville and not in Yorkton.
Yeah. I was the last hypnotist that was there, so good luck. for that group specifically. And it was a humdinger of a show, I'll tell you that.
It's good. So I need to be on my A game.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you. Because your speech is on mentorship, who do you think is currently the top mentor in the business for what we do?
Oh.
And now I'm getting you to name names, which is mean, right?
No, not necessarily. There would be quite a few, and it really, and like you said off the top of the show, it depends on what avenue you want to go down. And so I can point to probably a few different people. Like I would consider Lisa and Alan, probably if you're looking at any kind of stage performance down the road, and especially fairs. Lisa and Alan would be 100%, right at the top of that list. If you're looking to really focus on comedy and you can deal with Colin, I would say Colin would be a guy to go to if you are looking to rewrite your comedy. Marketing, Richard Barker, Wayne Lee, those guys have been doing it for a while. They know some of the ins and outs. If you're on the therapy side, there's a few different people I would definitely name. And if you are looking for somebody who is steady and is going to be patient and help build you up, there would be a number of other trainers that I would look at. Definitely somebody like Steve Supachana, who is he's straightforward, but the way that he expresses what needs to happen and the way that he would instruct, I'd 100% recommend him to pretty much anybody, whether it's therapy side or entertainment side. And I know he was just out with a couple of other guys in Vegas a couple weeks before you were doing the rodeos out there. So again, if you're a rodeo person, that would be a perfect person to connect with. Yeah. So it really depends on which way you want to go. If I'm going to do corporate gigs and whatnot, I probably, tend to look at Wayne and what he's doing. And
that's if you want the higher paid corporate gigs.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is going to sound weird, but there's more than one corporate market. There really, really is.
Yeah.
People have this overarching corporate.
Yeah, and you could go large enterprise versus small medium business.
Versus holiday parties.
Yeah,
that's a completely separate market than the corporate market, but it's still within the corporate market. And this year at Christmas time, I made most of my income in 18 days. So it's a viable market to be in as well. Just the holiday party market and then do nothing for the rest of the year. That sounds crazy, but it's the truth.
And when you look on social media and looking at who's promoting themselves on social media and getting the word out, you can also point at Richard Cole quite easily.
Yep. Absolutely.
Every other time that I look at his feed, he's got something going on, or so he knows how to stay ahead of a down cycle. Let's put it that way.
And you've been in business long enough that you do realize there's down cycles. Most hypnotists don't realize this, but there is down cycles. When I first started, the first 3 years were really good. From 2007 to 2009, I made a whack of cash. Then 2009 to 2011 was like 3 times that much. And then 2013 hit, and it completely killed my income. Well, not completely, but there is down cycles, and you have to prepare for them. And you have to be at an appropriate price rate to be able to get through them. That sounds really weird, but that's the truth. Is you have to be like a squirrel and save your nuts in a tree.
And don't forget where you put them.
Yes, and know where you put them. Shawn, this has been a great talk. We're at 34 minutes. I do want to talk to you afterwards for a couple seconds, but before we end off, Performing Hypnosis Summit coming up in just
not even 2 weeks. Yeah, we got a week and a couple of days.
I will be in Vegas in 9 days. So it's coming up pretty darn quick. Is there anything you want to leave off everybody who's watching about the summit, or about what you do specifically, or anything at all?
Well, for me, of course, roles change with Jim not being there. So I'll be basically backing up Grant and running the tech support. I've got a couple of key volunteers. Casey Pico is running the entire volunteer show behind the scenes. So we've got a lot of good people and a lot of help. So we'll make things happen as best that we can. And yeah, you know, the one thing that I said to everybody when we were meeting was the mission goes on. The tenor of the mission may have changed, but the mission goes on. And so we're committed to making this PHS even better than the last one, and going from there.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do this podcast for 10 years, and I've never seen the cohesion between other comedy hypnotists as I've seen now. And it's not because Jim died. It's because of the work Jim did. It's because of the work Grant has done. It's because of the work that Dan has been doing, and you have been doing, and Brian has been doing. It's because we're all starting to realize that we're way stronger together than we are separately.
And that's the truth. And that was Jim. He was and I've said this in a few posts. Jim was a person who was able to connect. And not just connect you to him, but connect you to somebody who could benefit from your experience, your message, your wisdom, whatever it is, and vice versa. And that was the beauty of knowing Jim. It will be a little different this year, but we will proceed in the way that I know Jim would have wanted us to.
So before we end off, everybody, Performing Hypnosis Summit, 24th, 25th, 20. Am I crazy?
Yeah,
24th, 25th, 26th.
You are, but that's only because you live in Saskatchewan with me.
It's 40 below, everybody.
Listen, when I come back on that Monday, I took a look at the long range forecast. It's supposed to be minus 42 here. So. And it really doesn't matter. I don't need to translate that for our American friends.
No.
Once you get past minus 40 and minus 40, it's just freaking cold.
Yeah.
Let's
take a pee outside and your wiener freezes off.
Yeah. The way I explain it is how in the middle of summer when you walk out of a hotel in Vegas or in Texas even, and your breath gets taken away because the air just is so hot. Now translate that to cold.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. Yeah. It really is. We got 2 minutes. Well, depends how long you want to go. I've got all bloody day.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm good. The 24th, 25th, and 26th is the main conference. There are a couple of pre-conference and a post-conference, one or two of those going on as well. And then, of course, the ICBCH convention is on
Richard's thing.
Richard Nongard and Jason Lynette. Yeah. So, and that will be on the 31st, 1st, and 2nd. So if you can swing it, there is
2 weekends.
Yeah, 2 weekends where you can kind of coordinate hotels. The Gold Coast is where we'll be at, and then you flip back to the Orleans the weekend after that. So,
well, that's it, everybody. Six Figure Entertainer Podcast. Thanks for watching. Shawn, Kostiuk. Have I been pronouncing your name correctly? Because I know that there is issues sometimes.
Yeah, there's about 1,000 different pronunciations. Jim always thought there was an A in there, and you always used to say Shawn Kostiuk, but it's Kostiuk.
Yeah. It's funny. My real last name is Storschuk, and good luck getting people to pronounce it properly.
And I thought about it. My one of my grandparents' maternal name would have been Robbins. So,
Shawn Robbins. That's a hell of a name.
Yeah, then that rolls off the tongue really, really well, and it would be Scottish, right, Dan? And it would be a lot easier to entertain under that, and it may happen at some point. But for now, we'll keep the Kostiuk, and I could always go the New York route and go Shawnee K, because a lot of people seem to want to call me Shawnee all the time.
That would work.
So I got options.
That's fantastic. I'm going to end the stream, and I'll keep you for 2 minutes afterwards. Everybody, go see what Shawn does. See what I do. Performing Hypnosis Summit.